In a quiet valley in North Sumatra, there lived a farmer named Toba. His house was small, his rice fields were wide, and his life, well, it was pretty much the same thing every single day. Every morning, before the sun was fully up, Toba was already out in the field. He lived alone. No one woke him up in the morning. No one waited for him at home. Even the chicken was sometimes louder than he was. Sometimes he even talked to the wind. Come on, at least respond so I don't feel like I'm losing my mind talking to myself. The wind, of course, said nothing. Beside farming, there was one thing that Toba truly loved: fishing. The river near his home was clear and peaceful. The water moved gently as if it had never known trouble. As evening approached and the sky turned orange, Toba sat on his favorite rock and cast his line into the river. 1 minute passed, 2 minutes, then 10, nothing. Toba frowned. What's going on today? Did all the fish disappear? He changed the bait, still nothing. The river was far too quiet. And then suddenly, splash! The river erupted. His fishing line pulled tight. Whatever was on the other end was far more powerful and then stronger than any normal fish. Toba said, if this thing escaped, I'm done fishing forever. With one final burst of strength, he pulled as hard as he could. The water spread apart, and out came a giant fish covered in golden scales. Toba froze. I'd never seen anything like that. The fish shimmered under the evening light. Its eyes were clear and strangely human. But his amazement quickly took over. He carried the fish home, feeling proud of himself. Along the way, he kept thinking to himself, grilled sounds good, fried sounds good too. Honestly, anything works. He kept talking to himself. He was ready to cook it until he realized he had run out of firewood. He was only gone for a moment when he went out to gather a firewood. But when he returned, the container was empty. Toba stopped in his tracks. He rubbed his eyes, still empty. Something glittered at the bottom of the container. Several pieces of gold. Toba stared at them in disbelief. Suddenly, the house felt far too quiet. Slowly, he walked toward his bedroom. The door was slightly open. He said, if there's a thief in there, please, let them be peaceful. He pushed the door open, then immediately stepped back. Inside stood a woman with long hair, calmly brushing it. Then Toba blinked. The woman turned toward him. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Her eyes were calm and deep. She said, don't be worried, she said softly. Toba said nothing. The god was real. The woman was real. At that point, His mind gave up trying to understand any of it. She said, "I can return to the river," she said softly, "or I can stay and live as a human." Toba went silent. For years, his home had been lonely and empty. No one welcomed him. No one waited for him. Toba said, "If you stay," he said quietly, "what do you want?" She said, "I am willing to be your wife, but there is one condition." The woman said. Toba immediately got cautious. She said, "You must never speak of where I came from. You must never tell anyone that I was once a fish." The word felt heavy. Toba knew himself well. He had a temper, and sometimes he spoke without thinking. Deep down, Toba thought, "I've been alone for far too long. If I let this chance go, I might spend the rest of my life talking to the wind." He looked at her with determination. "I promise, I'll never say a word." The woman smiled softly, and that night, the house that had once been silent no longer felt empty. But Toba had no idea. Once been silent no longer felt empty. That night would one day become the greatest test of his life. After they got married, they were blessed with a baby boy, and they named him Samosir. Both of them were overjoyed and excited to become a parent. They raised Samosir with endless love and spoiled him quite a bit. As he grew older, Samosir became an extremely active child, and to be honest, a little mischievous too. He never wanted to help his father to work in the field. Even when his mother asked him to do something simple, he like bringing lunch to his father, he would often refuse. He would rather stay at home or go out and play with his friend. On top of that, Samosir had an enormous appetite. Toba had to work even harder just to make sure his son always had enough food to eat. His appetite was so big that sometimes an entire meal meant for the whole family would disappear just to fill his stomach. Even so, Toba and his wife never complained. They continued doing everything they could to make sure their son was always happy and well fed. One day, after being persuaded and practically forced by his mother, Samosir finally agreed to bring his father lunch to the field. Reluctantly and fighting off his laziness with all of his strength, he made his way toward the field while carrying the meal. But halfway there, he started feeling hungry and thirsty. Samosir opened his father's lunch and took a small bite. At first, just one bite, but he's still hungry and not fully satisfied. So he opened it again and stopped at a few more bites. And then a few more. By the time he stopped, only a small amount of food and drink was left for his father. Meanwhile, in the field, Toba was happy to see his son approaching from a distance. For once, he thought, Maybe my son finally become responsible. But when samosir handed him the lunch and Toba opened it, his expression quickly changed. "Why is there barely anything left?" Toba asked, his voice rising. Samosir explained that he had gotten very hungry on the way and said his father shouldn't be angry because he had still left a little for him. That was enough to push Toba over the edge. He could no longer control his anger. "You disrespectful child," he shouted. "You are nothing but the son of a fish." Samosir froze in a shock. The words hit him hard, and his heart broke. Crying uncontrollably, he ran back home. When he arrived, his mother was shocked to see him in tears and struggling to speak. Through his sobs, eventually, Samosir told her everything that had happened in the field. Hearing the story, his mother felt deeply hurt and disappointed. Toba had broken his promise, the promise he swore to keep. Then she stood up and took Samosir's hand. Within seconds, both of them disappeared. Suddenly, something miraculous happened. Where they had been standing, from the ground beneath their footprint, water began bursting out with incredible force. The flow became stronger and stronger, so powerful that no one could stop it. The water kept rising until it slowly filled the entire village. In the end, a lake was formed. That lake became known as Lake Toba, and the island that appeared in the middle of it was named Samosir Island, in the memory of a young boy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.